Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the next installation of Joseph's Fireside Chat series, where we sit down with the leaders from legal automation and technology. Today, I am joined by someone who I've known for 8 years. We have really been on a journey together. Her name is Sarah Kate Lee. She is head of legal, DPO, and responsible AI officer for a total of 3 jurisdictions, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Malaysia, for global HR giant Randstad. SK, thank you so much for joining me.
And thank you for having me, Sam. It's an absolute pleasure. And you're right, it's been a journey. So I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, to think how much has changed in that time. It's such a treat for our audience. So thank you so much for making the time. Okay, so first up, your role encompasses so much. You started in disputes like me. I was a disputes lawyer for many years before the world of Joseph. You then took on this role in-house. You took on legal, data protection, now AI, and you're working across 3 jurisdictions. Most sane people would have said no at some point, but you kept saying yes. What drives you in your day-to-day?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So I'm going to try and make it really short and sweet. See how good my advocacy skills are. I think ultimately, Sam, I'm really passionate about what I do. And the core of it, I think, is supporting people and supporting business results. So back then when I was in practice, I think for me, I was really blessed to be in a really good law firm. I would say all the cases I worked on, really hand on heart. It was something that, as a lawyer with integrity, it was really good cases that I believed in. And talking about Randstad, I think why I've been here for a long time, even the role has changed. Obviously, there's a bit of stretch here and there. It's because I think the values of Randstad resonates with me. So in the earlier times when I joined, some of our key values were to know, to serve, to trust. And actually, these are the values. I'll talk a little bit about whole Joseph legal engineering journey, maybe, but those are the core of what drives me. And I actually joined this company not as the GC, Sam. I was like a legal counsel. But it's just that there was a business need. And I said, hey, if you need my help, I can use my skill set to solve these problems and solve these problems in a way that supports the business goals. But at the same time, it is really resonating with our core values of high performance culture and also taking care of people at the same time. So that's why I think, I didn't say no. I think it was more of there was an opportunity for me to step up as a leader and to help the people around me and to help the business. And that's why I'm still here.
That is I think that's so insightful, SK. Like the people that we work with at Joseph and my favorite lawyers really are the people who are here to help others. And that might sound like twee or cheesy, but it really is what we do with Joseph, right? It's what we do with self-service software. It's not us hoarding the power or the knowledge for ourselves. It's us saying, we trust you with this. Like we're going to build it safely and securely, but we trust you. So I think that's like a beautiful theme to open with. So thank you for sharing. Okay, we're both ex-disputes lawyers. We were the people that were called in when the mess had already happened, right? We were called in to clean up the mess. Right now, your job as an in-house lawyer is to stop that mess from happening. Tell us about the difference there, and what did you learn in disputes that you still use today in your role?
Yeah, 100%. So I think any good disputes lawyer will know it's always better to prevent the dispute from happening because I did a lot of high stakes, multi-million-dollar litigation. It's just, well, sometimes it's necessary, but I think a lot of disputes could be prevented. Or I think, and I guess relevant to today's topic, as a company, if you've got good hygiene when it comes to contracts or documents, you've got good guardrails to let your people, assuming they're in the frontline sales, to play, be creative, but within safe boundaries. Kind of sounds like parenting, but in a way it is. That's my job. Then you're gonna prevent disputes from happening. So, for example, as a disputes lawyer, right? The clauses in your contract are really important. Some of them to make sure that obligations are clear, maybe some of the key requirements of a company, we've got that protected, right? And I think, just thinking on top of my head, linking to Joseph, this gives our business the opportunity to have kind of a playground to customize certain things that I'm very comfortable for them to customize, and that's gonna have a very low risk disputes wise, but core legal provisions that for me is a risk in the disputes field. I take that away from them so that they can focus on the creative parts in the sales process, that they can go experiment. They can do it 100 times if they wanted to. And I think that's how I've looked at as shaped what I've built or encouraged the team to build today in Randstad.
That's brilliant. And I think for lots of the legal practitioners and compliance officers listening, that will really resonate, right? I think one of the things that scares us about building digital tools where people can do that legal work themselves is this fear of losing control. But actually, it requires us to grapple with, well, what are the parts I need to stay in control of? And what are the parts I can give up safely in order to achieve that outcome? Yeah, I think that binary is really important.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
you operate across Singapore, Hong Kong, and Malaysia, three quite different jurisdictions in some ways. How do you bring it all together into a single team?
Yeah, good question. Oh, wow. Well, I would say there's quite a lot in common being common law countries. But I think what's important is that I have developed pretty extensive playbooks that help even the team that I lead to navigate these jurisdictions. So I think it's really important to be clear, firstly, about the outcomes that you want to achieve. Because these three jurisdictions are really big, right? But I need to focus on what the legal team needs to be able to deliver and advise, which are the areas that we need to focus on in these jurisdictions, what is in common, and create, the tools and the support that they need to be able to function at that level. So interesting fun fact for you, everyone in my team is in a regional role. So on any given day, even myself, I might have 3 meetings on Singapore, 2 meetings on Malaysia, 4 meetings on Hong Kong, 2 meetings with global. It's really a mixed bag, but I think that's what's exciting about the role is that um, we are there to provide local expertise, but at a regional grasp. So how I bring it together? I think you really, as a leader, you really got to have a strong mission and vision for your team, and to make sure that you're guiding them in a way that helps them to be efficient, but also I think to be engaged in a role.
Very good advice. Um, let's move on. Let's move on to the world of legal tech, um, which is what we're here to talk about, right?
Yeah.
You don't call it legal ops or legal tech though. You call it legal engineering, and you talk about building your own legal robots. Why do you frame it in that way? Tell us about your philosophy when it comes to this space.
Yeah, Sam, I don't know if it's my philosophy. I think it's just maybe my background. I did a lot of math. I did a lot of science, chemistry, biology, and then I became a lawyer. But I've done a lot of different things like music and art. So when I thought about legal engineering, I think for me it was more of I maybe I didn't have prior experience looking very specifically at legal ops or tech, so maybe I just didn't use it that way. But in my maybe simple mind, when I was looking at Joseph, I was very interested because I saw a problem in our company. I saw a gap, and I'm passionate about solving problems, legal being a catalyst to help the business as a springboard to achieve their results, right? So when I talk about legal engineering, it's because I looked at the problem and I was like, I need to build something. And when I build it, it's not about what I want to build. I need to understand what the teams in Randstad need in Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia. And maybe that's why I thought about engineering, because a lot of times engineers, they build things to meet the need. So for me, I think maybe I have a very customer focused mindset. And I was thinking, like, I need to make sure when I'm building this, it is going to be good for the teams. It is going to be easy for them to use. And for me, as the head of legal, I need to be really comfortable that this is a tool that I don't have to worry about them using it. They could use it 24/7. They could use it without supervision. I could build in, prompters in the tool, which I have, to tell them, hey, if you're going to do X, Y, Z, there's a guide on this. You might want to read on this, right? So that's why I think I called it engineering, because for me, it was a very intentional mindset about how I'm going to approach it. I'm not here to dump some kind of buzz technology on the sales team and I'm like, good luck. Here's the thing for you. I'm building something that's very central to their day-to-day battles, their pain points, and that's meant to help them be better, faster, stronger, more efficient in their job. So that was my mindset.
I think that is such good advice. Like, so frequently, SK, I see, even today, not even talking about 8 years ago, people going out there and trying to put a square peg in a round hole in the form of a piece of software, right? And they just go out and they're not quite sure what they're trying to solve for. And they find a piece of software and they just say, this is my solution. That is not solving a problem. And it never, ever has been, and it never will be, right? We need to look at the problem space, talk to our stakeholders, figure out the ecosystem, and then engineer a solution. And I think some of this will sound obvious to people, but I really, time and again, I see people not approaching the problem in this way. And what I think that means is you get a solution that might last for a year, maybe two, and then you churn to the next one, and you churn to the next one, and you churn to the next one. You know what you have done, though, that so few people have. And I think what really sets you apart, you built a tool 8 years ago. That tool, it's evolved, it's grown, it's changed, but it still exists today. Like, that's really extraordinary and something that should be celebrated. Um, let's talk about it. It's a terms of business tool. Like, for people who aren't familiar with Randstad or the human resources space, like, what's the tool? What does it do? And how is it gone?
Yeah, okay. So I can talk about, I guess, coming back to the problem, right? So I think every head of legal has this issue, right? That sometimes you've got pressure to do more with less, or, and I would say, Sam, like 8 years ago, the whole AI rage hadn't even started yet. But I'm always very passionate about two things, right? Supporting business with their needs better, faster, stronger. But also another thing was I didn't want the lawyers in my team to work on tasks that were repetitive or what I viewed as lower value. I wanted them to get really deep dive into the business and the complex legal issues that would really put us at risk, right? Again, back to your disputes question. So what I built, right, coming to it, was we started off with a very basic kind of version one where we wanted to automate commercial contracts in a way that kind of like a self-service vending machine. um, Sammy explained this 100 times better than me, but basically we wanted to give our sales force access to what traditionally a lawyer would have to amend commercial terms in a contract, that would be, not requiring really extensive legal review. And so it started off with a very basic idea to say, hey, right now, amending these commercial terms, maybe about fees or payment structures, or things that were really commercial in nature and simple, it takes perhaps one business day and you need somebody to do it. But hey, we have an opportunity here because in our business, taking care of our customers are really important. And we want to move at a speed that supports that. And so back then, and this is like before AI was the rage, I was like, we need to automate this part of the process to get greater efficiency. So that was version one, right? And since then, because I've got some background, maybe looking at mathematics or I guess logical thinking, right? The business was like, oh, great, legal, you built this. Nobody from legal has ever built anything for us. Cool. But this version one, right? Like our sales team's getting more creative. We want to have 10 different options. Hey SK, can you build it? And I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's look at it, right? And I'm like, for me it's simple, Sam. If this is going to support your business activities, and we can do it in a compliant way, because now the AI is in the picture. What I really like about Joseph is that it's a reliable tool. It's not going to hallucinate. It's not going to make things up. It's going to give the business what they need when they need it in a very in a way that I'm really comfortable with, right? So again, the playground that has some guardrails, but like once you're inside, knock yourself out, do whatever you want, right? So we basically looked at, okay, business needs have evolved. We need more complex options. And I think, you talked a little bit about in the past or in our previous conversations, awards that we've gotten, right? I built the robot to the level that it provides 191 plus options, not all at once, but branches of options. So it's very extensive. But I've built it in a way, I think in a user-friendly way where somebody would only need maybe a minute to go through the self-service and get the contract that they need. But I've structured it in a way where it's very easy to use. The 191 options, it didn't take a long time to scroll through because I'm giving you different service options, different branches that you can choose the specific contract or iteration or adjustment that you need commercially. And we're still building, right? So, that's kind of where the journey's gone. It's really come to the heart of, we have a problem and I can build you a solution. It's as simple as that.
Cool. That's great. I love that. And we're continuing to build. It's never done, right? And that tool is used a lot, right? Like I didn't have the numbers, but it's like hundreds of agreements.
Yeah, well, let me look. So I can't give you the exact number, but we've produced thousands of documents with it, which for me is a value add because again, it covers the few pillars, right? I've got real comfort that this is a tool. So for example, with AI, it depending on how you build it, there's always the fear of the GC that it's going to hallucinate. You need human to check it. But the way we've built Joseph, and because I've had almost no downtime, so it's very stable, right? It's a very reliable tool for the business to get this service or this need that they need from us. And like you said, we're still building because as the business evolves, we find a new kind of adjustment that we need to make. I don't know, Sam, if you're going to lock me out at some point because I was in Joseph this morning and I was just looking at the many rabbit holes and spirals I've built. I'm thinking I'm going to run out of space. It's coming up to 3, 4 pages.
We'll find you
Uh,
more space, SK. For you, we'll get you more space. That's great. I love that you're logged in as we're talking. That's brilliant.
yeah.
Cool. So I think you've touched on it already, but I mean, how exciting what you built and you're continuing to build and the impact that it's had. I think one of the great things that I've heard from the Randstad team, though, is as you have started to build, other people across the organization have started to build, and it's grown and grown and grown and grown. What makes people want to opt in? Like, what do they see that makes them want to be a part of this journey?
Yeah, I think definitely I've been a Joseph advocate. I've helped different business units, even different countries, I can't disclose which ones, but I've built like some small ones for them to play around with. I think it comes down, kind of as a Joseph advocate, that if you have in your department a lot of contracts that are I would say could be handled with some automation, right, that are repetitive. And if you have the same concerns that I have, which is we need to move faster, we need to move better, we need to give the salespeople access in a way to a lawyer 24/7 to be able to self-service certain things, then it makes sense. So sometimes different departments, could be HR, could be different. They look at it and they're like, well, we have the same problem, right? We're from different disciplines, but we have volume of documents. Right now, what we're doing might not be the most efficient way. And maybe because back then, what I was also thinking is I want people on my team to focus on more complex, high value, high risk problems. So I think those are the key things. I've also done very extensive reporting on the ROI internally as part of my quarterly or half yearly or yearly report. Because I'm very passionate about results. And even though I'm a lawyer, I think I'm pretty good with numbers. So I generally put a number to everything. So when I was looking at metrics, I didn't just look at the ROI from a cost to volume perspective for Joseph. I looked at it gave our salespeople instant access. So what took a day now was done in a minute. They could be speaking to a client and get this ready for the client in real time, which I think is really important. That adds value, right? And I also looked at the number of hours that it saved the legal function, and where we put those hours into more high complex, high value things to help the business actually achieve their goals. So I think that's why people kind of were interested in the idea, because I had very solid facts and numbers to talk about how it was amazing for my team and for the business.
And for the business, that's great. I think that's so powerful, right? The ability to tell stories to the business using numbers is something that way too few lawyers, even lawyers who are engaging in automation and AI, understand. That's so powerful. Okay, um, this is brilliant. What okay, one thing that surprised you. What's one thing that surprised you about this journey, whether about Joseph or technology more broadly, good, bad, otherwise?
I think one thing that surprised me, I guess coming back to the award, I say even in my own professional journey, sometimes I'm a bit too internal. I'm always focusing on, because I've got a really big jurisdiction. What's happening in Malaysia? What's happening in Singapore? What's happening in Hong Kong? What's happening global? How do I keep it kind of like my children, all of them looked after, right? But I think recently, one of the lawyers in my team, so credit to her, she was like, hey, you know what? What we have here is amazing. I think we should really submit this for external awards, right? And because I've also been invited to speak at a bit more conferences lately, and my schedule's permitted it. I speaking to people, I just realized that it's not common for lawyers to be so hands-on to build, um, something, right? A lot of times, I think the majority of cases, you've got either heads of legals or GCs looking at a technology stack, a tool that's kind of really plug and play. But what we've built is very, very customized. And I think that's the part that surprised me. I think realizing that what we've built is very unique, and Joseph has enabled us to do that. And that sometimes there's no right or wrong or one fits all approach, Sam. I think you really, for me at least, what I've realized just speaking to so many different professionals, so many different head of legals and GCs, I think it's important to understand what your business needs at that current point in time, because that could change. Like what my business needs 8 years ago and now is different. Um, and understanding how any one particular tool could help add value there. So I think that was the part that surprised me, is over time, I didn't realize that what we were doing was something that surprised other people. Does it make sense? So it's not exactly about the tool, but I've had people who are from technology development background, and then meet at a conference, because recently I was speaking at this chief digital officer conference, and they were like, wow, you built this. This is quite advanced from user programming, like a software developer would have to think through this process for. So I think what in a way surprised me, or what I really like about Joseph, is that it's a canvas for you to build anything that you want. Obviously you need to have some structure around it, but I really like how I can really mold it to meet where my business needs it to be. Does that make sense? Because some legal tools out there, it's depending on what you're looking at, right? It might not have this level of customization. So I really like that about the tool.
Yeah, it's very customizable. I mean, it's in good hands, obviously. Um, yeah, that's great. It's I think as well with Joseph, right? Maybe part of what you're describing. I know you have a mathematical brain, but it's also built for lawyers, like who might be technologically scared of this kind of thing. It gives you the power to build this kind of tool that otherwise you wouldn't have. So I think that's a gift we can give to the legal world. SK, I'm conscious of the time. You're a very busy
Yes.
person, but I want to
Mhm.
move on to AI, not just
Sure.
because AI is playing an increasing role in the world of legal technology, but also because you are the responsible AI officer. Um, you've you've written and spoken about how it's really important that we get the guardrails right at the outset rather than bolting them on later. Um, what does that look like? What does that look like in practice?
Yeah, I think, what does that look like? I think just to flow into that, I think it's really important to have that because of shadow AI. So in a simple terms for me, if I don't support the business or enable them to look at AI in a safe way, people are just gonna find AI. It's so available out there. Shadow AI, it's gonna be something that's not approved, that's not compliant, that doesn't meet our data security protocols. So how do we prevent that, right? We as a legal function, as a responsible AI officer, I don't be the one want to be the one telling the business or tech, hey, you got to stop this. You're gonna need 2 months more. So how to prevent that? I think is being very strategic and intentional about the guardrails, and that includes, for example, a AI use case workflow. So we've built this, but it can't just be a policy, right? It had to be rolled out, and I did this through training, through constant communication. We have an active AI steering committee as well. But I'll give you a simple example, right? With the AI use case workflow, Sam, we tell people upfront, hey, it's great that you're looking at AI. We encourage you, and here's a safe way, right? Look at your AI use case, look at a few of these things, and then we give you the Randstad policy on this. We look at generative AI's do's and don'ts. We look at some of the key things that we could never do as a company. And we guide you to say, hey, look, if you meet this preliminary checklist, then here's the next step to fast track your, getting support from your DPO, your ISO, your responsible AI officer, so that we can work alongside with you to make sure that this tool or this AI solution that you're looking at not only delivers the results that you want, but it's gonna be ethically and security wise compliant. Because we are regulated as a business. So I think that's what I talked about, and I gave practical examples of how it could be as simple as having a committee or regular communication with the main groups of people in the company that are looking at AI. So it's not a case of, hey, we need this AI tool, it gets thrown on legal's desk, and you're already behind by 2 months because you're not part of the initial discussion. You don't know where the business is strategically looking at. So you can't advise in real time. So I think that would be my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, that's great. And it's so, I mean, the shadow AI piece, I know everyone's talking about it, but it's so true. Like, there's no way for us to say don't use it because we know people are going to. So we need to create these safe, structured pathways.
Mhm.
Okay, final question in this round because I've taken up so much of your time.
Yeah.
What's one thing that a general counsel or head of legal should be thinking about when it comes to AI, but aren't?
Yeah, I think if we're looking at things in a regional perspective, like for myself, just at conferences or speaking to people, I think a lot of heads of legals or GCs are perhaps focusing on which tool is the best that will save us the most hours, or how do we help the business not to run and do shadow AI, or how do we keep our data secure. My perspective though is if you are in a regional context, or at least how I'm thinking, is that we need to think about how our AI architecture or our overall tech stack will handle regulatory divergence. So if you've got different jurisdictions, you need to look at that difference when you're considering how localized automated outputs conflict maybe with global compliance standards. So for example, right, Randstad, we need to look at requirements in the EU, but we also need to look at the local context in these countries. And I think it's really important. Like, yes, you can look at AI, you can think about what it could do for you, but I think you need to go one step further and think also about the architecture and how that's gonna play out, not just short term but long term as well, because it's very fragmented. Like the rules and regulations on AI is still developing, it's still evolving, it's different in every jurisdiction. And you need to understand, or what I spoke about recently is that you need to understand how your business wants to operate, and whether it makes sense for you to apply uh, potentially a higher standard of a global requirement. Maybe it's mandatory. For some businesses, it might not be. But I think having your head wrapped around the piece around the regulatory divergence is really critical when you look at AI in today's context.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. And I think something that people are not grappling with enough, but are increasingly doing. The EU regulations just being introduced, like yeah, it's getting more and more complex.
August, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. To round us out, SK, we're gonna do a rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Okay, I'll try.
Don't be scared. Okay, but we've got to do it quickly, so I'm going to throw it out and whatever pops into your head. So, first up, disputes lawyer or in-house counsel? Which one's more you?
Um, I think I like to say I'm both though. I'm
You
in-house,
got to
but I think I've
choose.
never left. I have to choose. All right, in-house.
Cool. I like it. I agree. You are. Singapore, Hong Kong, or Malaysia? Don't think.
No, I think for me that's difficult, Sam. I've got 3 children. I look
Yeah,
after all
exactly.
of
You've
them.
got 3 children. You can't choose.
Yeah,
That's a
so I'm just
cruel one.
gonna say it's
You
the
get a
region.
pass. You get a
I'm gonna
pass. Yeah,
yeah.
Southeast Asia. Great. Me too. One word for the team you walked into, one word for the team you lead today.
Okay, wow. So I think one word for the team I walked into in Randstad, I think we were in the building phase. Um, and now I think we're just, I would say the word right now would be we are smashing it. Well, it's 2 words, but I hope that counts.
You are. I agree fully. No, that's perfect. Own it. Okay, build, buy, or partner.
I'm definitely a build person. I just, yeah.
You are. We've heard it here today. You're an engineer. All right, best coffee in KL.
Oh, I don't really drink coffee
I
properly.
was going to say
I'm more of a
you're a
tea
tea drinker.
person.
Yeah.
I'm a
All
tea
right.
person.
Best tea in KL.
Um, Sam, if you're in KL, I'll make a tea for you. The best tea is my tea. I'll custom make one. I'm a builder.
That is the best answer I've ever heard. All right, I'm coming for that tea. That is wonderful. Um, okay, Joseph is at a party. What's Joseph doing?
Wow. Okay, so Joseph is that's a good one. Okay, so
It's a
most
hard one.
creative brain. Yeah, Joseph is dishing out the kind of the pretzels that everybody loves in the most uniform, reliable way. Okay, I don't know if this is the kind of party you're talking about.
It's
But yeah,
perfect.
that's what
I
I
love
would describe it as.
That's a
You know, you're
beautiful
gonna
image.
get that pretzel that's always gonna be the same, and it's going to always gonna be a consistent quality.
That's it. That's what we're doing. I love that. We need that person at the party. Um, okay, final one. One skill every general counsel will need in 5 years
And doesn't have now.
and doesn't have today.
Yeah. Okay. So I think. Well, this is a really tough question. But something that I've been thinking out as well. I think legal roles are definitely going to evolve and change over time. Some companies have the luxury of having a GC, a DPO, and a responsible AI officer. But I think, Sam, with where the industry is heading, as we get access to more and more tools that help us maybe with administrators, a lot of companies are going to merge these roles. Or maybe that's how I'm thinking because my role is merged. And I think if you're a GC and you're only focused on the legal elements, I would really encourage you to consider um, kind of where companies are going to need legal advice, where the biggest risks are. So it used to be for some companies, multi-million dollar dispute litigation. In the future, if you ask me, everything's going to be way more digital. It's going to be way more AI. What we're seeing now is just the tip of the iceberg. The landscape's going to change exponentially every year. And I think it's really important skill set of the GC is being able to kind of try and forecast what the company is going to need from you as the GC 5 years from now and start developing that skill today. That's what I think. I think it's the ability to be comfortable, being uncomfortable to look ahead of
Yeah.
time and start preparing your teams, not just to be relevant, but to kind of almost trying to stay ahead of the game.
That is wonderful advice. I really love that. And I think so many people in all sorts of industries are grappling with that feeling right now of how do I face this future that we don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know what knowledge work will look like in 5 years. But I think that concept of it's a GC's job to try and look ahead and to try and figure out what that's going to be and to prepare the team. I think that's brilliant. SK, you've been so generous with your time and your wisdom and your experience. Thank you so much for sharing this with us today. And I can't wait to see what you build next.
And thank you for having me, Sam. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for the support over the years. Really love the partnership.
Of
So,
course.
yeah,
Of
we'll stay in
course. Of
touch.
course. Anytime.